Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are beyond excited to have you all. We have an incredible lineup of phenomenal women from various industries that you'll get the opportunity to hear some insight about their personal stories and their personal journeys as well. And so before we begin, I want to give an intro into who we are as Black Girls Leadership Academy and our vision as well. We can actually go to our next slide. So Black Girls Leadership Academy's vision is we are a viable resource to the leadership skills of young Black girls and women with a very special interest and focus on their personal development, cultural identity, and global character. We may have some mentees and mentors that are also a part of today's session. So shout out to you all. Really, this organization's vision was created so that we can be a resource to one another. Oftentimes as Black women and girls, we are the ones who are providing, giving, serving, but yet we don't always have opportunities and spaces in which we are also equally being poured into. And so this organization was birthed out of that vision and out of that need. And so we're so excited that we've been doing this now for over 3 years and that we get to create spaces and opportunities that's for Black women by Black women. I'm also going to give time and space for our other co-founder to also introduce herself before we begin introing our moderator and our panel for tonight. I will pass it over to you, Victoria.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Gishowi. I am also the other co-founder of Black Girls Leadership Academy, where we provide mentorship to young Black girls and Black women. I'm from Compton, California, born and raised and still currently residing. And I also have a background in public health. I've been doing public health and community health work for the past 6 years, and so grateful to have you all here. I'm also chiming in the chat, so please engage with us, engage with our panelists, and so glad to have you all here with us on this afternoon, evening.
Yes. Thank you so much, Victoria, for also your leadership. Again, my name is Jahylin. I have a background in mental health and civil rights. I currently reside in Washington, D.C., but I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I'm super excited to have you all join from all over our country. And so without further ado, I have the great pleasure and joy of introducing our moderator for today's panel conversation, and that is Shardell Baker. She is an incredible leader. She's been a part of Black Girls Leadership Academy's mentorship program literally since the inauguration in 2022 and has just been an incredible resource to other young Black women and girls in our organization and even beyond Black Girls Leadership Academy. Currently, she is a media rotational associate at Bloomberg Media, and again, is an incredible, outstanding Black BGLA mentor. As an emerging journalist, Shardell prides herself on ensuring that creative expression and diverse stories are being told while building her journalistic portfolio with platforms like Gravity, Her Campus, and even Essence. She is a proud HBCU alumna of Hampton University in Virginia, and we are honored to have her a part of this organization. And without further ado, we're going to invite Shardell Baker to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Jazzy, for that amazing introduction to our virtual audience. Hello, welcome, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you might be. It's such an honor to be here with you all this afternoon. As Jazzy and McKee mentioned, BGLA has a special place in my heart personally for the contributions that they've been able to make to society and to continue to be a pillar for young Black girls across the country. So I know you are so excited to hear from our amazing speakers. I know I am, so I'm just going to dive right into their introductions. Starting off with Miss OShae Moore. OShae currently helps lead e-retail and digital marketing strategy at L'Oreal USA in the Professional Products Division as Assistant Manager, e-retail digital marketing. OShae graduated from Hampton University in 2021 with a degree in business administration by way of the 5-year MBA program. While at Hampton University, she was a member of the Greer Dawson Wilson Student Leadership Training Program, while also serving 3 consecutive terms as Ogre Phi Ogre Class President. OShae was also a spring 2019 2019 initiate of the Gamma Iota chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she served as the chapter president for the 2020 and 2021 academic school year. Immediately following graduation, OShae set her sights on New York City after beginning her career at L'Oreal through their marketing management trainee program. She began her journey as a marketing associate on the Katerra and Shu Umaira brands, supporting both brands' national Sephora accounts. Her high-spirited attitude, curiosity to learn, and passion for beauty allowed her to bring a new way of thinking to the forefront, challenging each brand to rethink all consumer-facing efforts to be more diverse, authentic, and inclusive. Her contributions not only helped both brands to diversify their target audiences, but also tactfully increase product page traffic and client conversation, moving the brand from number 3 to number 1 on Sephora.com. During her first year at L'Oreal, OShae also strived to broaden the company's tech by giving back to HBCU communities. As an advocate, OShae helped spearhead a net new professional development and homecoming sponsorship experience at Hampton University in the fall of 2022. She successfully helped launch Project HBCU, an effort that aimed to further outreach and recruitment through professional development programs, product giveaways, and a homecoming fashion show sponsorship. Outside of the world of beauty, OShae enjoys co-hosting her podcast entitled Aunties in Training with her best friend, Calix, a podcast that follows two Black women as they navigate life in their 20s in New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss OShae Moore. Now, moving on to our next panelist, we have Miss Jahylin McKee. Known as an architect of synergy, CEO and principal publicist, Jahylin McKee is the blueprint of new age public relations and media entrepreneurship. McKee is a trained master of brand amplification who engineers impactful creative solutions, having imparted her collaborative genius into projects with Beyonce's Parkwood Entertainment, Apple, Netflix, Nike, MTV, Tidal, Revolt TV, New York Fashion Week, and Facebook. Founding her full-service PR agency in 2018, Jahylin has helped her clients reach pinnacle publicity goals, positioning them to be featured in/on Good Morning America, E! News, Billboard, Forbes, Shondaland, Vogue, Elle, Essence, and more. McKee set out to build JMC after stints at Hot 97, IMC Partners, and social media managing multi-platinum recording artist Remy Ma's accounts. Then, a recent graduate, her trek to New York City was supported through a personal investment of just $500 and a kind friend's couch. She's so far removed from being an eager entry practitioner, yet her mission remains the same: impact. Her impeccable work ethic is only rivaled by her commitment to affecting change for her clients and her community. Prior to starting her professional career, she attended Savannah State University, where she studied communications and served as Miss Savannah State University for the 2016-2017 school year, and was a spring 2017 initiate into the Delta Nu chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Jahylin McKee. For our third panelist, we had, hey girl. For our next panelist, we have Edidilong Obot. Edidilong Obot is a proud first-generation Nigerian American with strong cultural ties that impact her community and influences cultural awareness. With her enthusiasm to link communities with equitable resources while spreading cultural awareness, she is constantly connecting the dots in the community through social advocacy, social impact, and community engagement. Features as a cultural influencer and community advocate by various outlets and publications from the National Action Network to TEDx's Alif and Voyage Houston magazine, she is committed to ensuring that there is a positively progressive impact in the community. Edidilong is an internationally recognized speaker who has spoken on various platforms, including South Africa Stream Academy Leadership Summit, Reg Tech Africa Conference, and other conferences where she talks range from grassroots organizing to empowerment and leadership. She has also moderated various panel discussions, including the AWO Center Humankind Festival, the Society for the African in the Diaspora Library Literary Discussion, and more. In addition, she impacts the lives of young leaders by sharing cross-cultural organizing tools that encourage civic engagement on issues that affect their community and how to get involved at a local, national, and international level. Edidilong serves in various leadership roles, impacting the presence of minorities in advocacy, cultural, arts, and STEM and art spaces, ranging from the YMCA International Advisory Board to the Houston Area Urban League Young Professionals. She is a 2024 National Urban Fellow and obtaining a Master's of Policy Management at Georgetown University. She is among the Memorial Foundation builders of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial 2021 inaugural class of Social Justice Fellows program as part of the foundation's commemoration of the Martin Luther King Memorial's 10th anniversary. She has a decade's worth of experience as a public servant in local and state and in private sector as a senior lead consultant in the environmental justice space, where she utilizes her training and experience to organize around various community issues centered around equity in underserved and marginalized communities. Louisiana, where Katerra graduated last with a degree in biology and concentrations in chemistry. She is very passionate about working with children, loves sweet tea and modeling. And she is very, very excited to be sharing her story with you all this afternoon. And that is all of the lovely panelists that we have speaking with us all today. If everyone in the audience could please give a virtual round of applause for all of them amazing, amazing women that we have speaking with us today, along with all of the amazing accolades that they have. Okay, I know there are so many things that we could say about each of you, but I'm very, very excited to be diving into all of you all's stories this afternoon. Speaking of which I know some of you actually did have in your bios, but if you wouldn't mind going in depth as far as, again, what university did you attend and what was your college experience like that really helped to shape you to where what you're building into today? Katerra, we can start with you.
Hello, everyone. So I went to Xavier University of Louisiana. What stuck out about my HBCU experience was I was surrounded by people who were my age that were very focused and had intentions on being professionals, and not just professionals in any career, but professionals that were Black and proud to be Black and had pride in who they were. And we really had a big pre-med and pharmacy program at my school. And so most of the kids that went there were trying to become doctors or pharmacists. I was one of them. I have changed my mind as of recent, but it was just an amazing experience. And it taught me how to be confident and stand in my truth and be able to talk to people in a panel and have the confidence and just know who I am in order to be who I am in society and not have any fear of doing so.
Thank you for that, Katerra. And I will say we are in the same graduating class, so I totally get it as far as being around amazing and dynamic HBCU women and really being able to contribute to the amazing legacy that we're all being able to build. Edidilong, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. Just a slight correction on my name. It's Edidilong.
Yes.
And what shaped me at Texas Southern University, Houston, Texas, so I'm a Texan girl. I would just say that it was my family. They progressed through Texas Southern University when they first came to Houston. And so that looked like attending the law school, Thurgood Marshall School of Law, the pharmacy school. Well, I have still some family who teach there. And then also my own parents also either attended or graduated there. And so that is what really helped shape me, was just having that sense of family already kind of like on the campus. And then as I was in high school, my father would bring me around the campus a lot. And so I had an opportunity to meet his advisors, some of the professors there. So by the time I matriculated into Texas Southern, I was like everybody's child. So it just was a welcoming experience. And I felt like I was at home in a sense. So I did major in chemistry, and then I went back and got my master's in environmental toxicology. And so it was just that push of like everybody encouraging me that, yes, you can do this, especially being in STEM, because in our school, we were really pushing the STEM aspect. And so that's really what shaped me, was just having that kind of like sense of family there on campus. And that was just kind of built in from my younger years. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I know especially all of us can attest to being at an HBCU and being in that family environment and having people that end up turning into sisters or brothers or aunties and uncles. So thank you for that. OShae, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I'll say, so for me, I went to or graduated from, and this is ungraduated, I always do that, Hampton University, and that was in May of 2021. And so I am now in a little bit of a hybrid post-grad phase. So I'm not a super recent graduate, but I'm also still early in my career. And I think that in general, being at Hampton University and being intentional about in choosing an HBCU definitely has groomed me post-grad. But I think ultimately what drove me and kept me motivated while at Hampton was, I think, the idea of legacy. So for me, I'm a second generation HBCU grad on my mom's side. My mom graduated from Hampton University, but I chose to go to Howard. I'm sorry, my mom graduated from Howard and I chose to go to Hampton. But then also beyond that, my mom is also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, as am I. And so for me, there was a lot of lineage and infrastructure that HBCUs have born and bred in my family. And I wanted to carry that on. And I think that beautiful part about an HBCU, Katerra was speaking about it earlier, is the fact that you are surrounded by a lot of like-minded people, but people who are from completely different walks of life. And it just affords you this opportunity of freedom and vulnerability to really try and conquer everything. So not only was I able to carry on the Greek life or the sorority lineage and then the HBCU lineage, but I think being at Hampton also just empowered me to want to try new things. It's at Hampton, I think, that I really was able to step into advocacy and like hone in on my passion for giving back to others. And so you can do that from a ground level by being a part of an organization, or you can do that as a leader of an organization. And regardless of what you choose to do or the path that you choose to embark on while at school, the soft skills that you learn and the hard skills that you learn a lot of times are invaluable, and I think really shape you to who you are, and in a way that you don't realize until you're outside of the environment. So for me, I think legacy, lineage, and having the innate feeling to do whatever it is that I put my mind to is ultimately what helped get me through my experience at my HBCU.
Thank you for that. And again, going back to the legacy standpoint and the responsibility that comes with being at HBCU, I think it's so important that we continue to pass down these traditions to our future families that we may have. Jahylin, if you want to hop in on the question, that'd be great. I know we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Hi, ladies. Good afternoon. The other panelist stories were so beautiful. I think for me, it was a little bit of the opposite. I did not want to go to Savannah State. I did not want to go to Savannah State originally. That was not my first choice. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, so I had my heart set out on going to Spelman College. That was the only school I applied for. It was that and that only. And it wasn't until like the very last minute where my mom was like, you need to have a backup plan or you're going to go to community college. And so I was in this program. I'm not sure if anyone in here is familiar with Upward Bound, but I was an Upward Bound scholar and I had went to Georgia State all throughout high school. And so that was on the table. And I was like, I'm absolutely not going to the school where I went to school in high school because it didn't feel like that HBCU college experience that I really wanted. And so I had three options, and it was Fort Valley State, it was Albany State, and it was Savannah State. And the only reason why I chose Savannah State was because that was the only school that had palm trees and they had a beach. So I was like, I'll take that one. I had never been to Savannah, Georgia. But when I got there, I fell in love with the campus. I felt as though, like, even when I didn't want to give Savannah State a chance, Savannah State gave a chance on me. It was a point when I was going down there, my parents brought me down there to school to move in, and housing wasn't available. I'm not sure if anyone, and I know y'all ladies, y'all know that housing struggle. So whereas I'm thinking like this was my last resort school. Like the school was like, girl, we don't know if we got room for you. So that was like literally day one before classes started. That was my reality. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'll never forget this lady. Her name was Deidre Andrews. She later on became my mentor. She became the woman who wrote my recommendation letter. She pulled me to the side and I told that woman, I said, look, if I don't get housing, I am going to have to pack up my stuff and go back to Atlanta and go to community college. What can you do for me? And she was like, I didn't know who she was. Not later on, I found out she was the chief of staff to the president. But she told me, she was like, you have to make a promise to me. If I give you housing, you have to make the best out of your HBCU experience. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I ended up getting like one of the best rooms on campus. I had a handicapped room. I had my own room. I'm an only child. So that was like a dream as a freshman. And so from that point forward, my whole mindset about Savannah State changed. It changed so much that I wanted to become the queen. And that was my platform. My platform was the best HBCU experience. And so I thank God for Savannah State because it's definitely cultivated me into the woman that I am today. My best friend who I met on the campus of Savannah State, she's here in the chat. Shout out to Yalissa Salette. So even that to like is a true testament. You know, it's became my village. It's still my village, from the professors who I still keep in contact with, to people who have became my mentors, to lifelong friends. You know, I'm so grateful for Savannah State because those lessons that I've learned there were the foundation of not only my career, but the driving force for my company and my life.
That is so good. Thank you. See, I told you she had something good to say. But in all seriousness, though, thank you for sharing that. I want to actually piggyback off of that a little bit. You spoke about making connections and trying to find ways in which you can maintain those connections, even from college into being an adult. So Jahylin, can you speak a little bit more about, being now in your post-grad journey and maintaining those friendships and relationships from college?
Whew, those are my lifelines. Okay, let me tell y'all something. Adulthood is ghetto. So sometimes your village is all you have. You can have the best career, you can have the best love life, you can have the best of everything. But if you don't have that strong support system and those people who are going to remind you of who you are and whose you are, I feel as though like you will be lost just trying to navigate the landscape of just life. And so I think that, just finding like-minded individuals, being open to people who you would normally not talk to, kind of go to that event that's happening on campus. I think it was a blessing for me to really like take advantage of just like the most special thing about an HBCU is that you will never get that type of community ever again in life, right? So like, I know a lot of us who've graduated, I feel like for me, I lived on an island. So it was just like, I was never going to be in a room with so many people who look like me, who were just as fabulous as me, who were just as smart as me. And, we're just really going through this transition together from being these high school kids into women, into being just these excellent adults. And so I thank God for that, because had I not got out my comfort zone and just went out there and joined that NCNW, or had I not decided to go be a campus ambassador, or had I not decided to go join student government, I would have never known what would have been on the other side of that, almost 7 years later.
And speaking of transition, I would love to hear you all speak a little bit more about your journeys regarding that transition from HBCU life to corporate, or being a working professional as you all are now, or soon to be. Sorry, I was thinking about, like, as I was saying that, another question came to my head, so I'm gonna come back to that. But Edidilong, I'll start with you. And did I say it correctly this time? Please let me know.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Perfect.
Love it. You always working through it. Okay. I just want to make a comment about Jahlyin's story of how she ended up going to Savannah State. I know I mentioned earlier that my kind of like anchor was family, but I have a very similar story to hers in terms of how I got to Texas. Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay. So yes, just to kind of like really piggyback on that, I actually did not want to go to Texas Southern University at all, despite all the family heritage and everything like that. Just because I didn't have a really great perception about it. It was in the hood, it was in Third Ward, it was a lot of crime activity, all that stuff. And I actually was slated to go to Xavier. So shout out to the one who, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was supposed to go to Xavier too.
Yeah, I actually got in. I was in some scholars program, and just to what she was saying earlier, like they're one of the top HBCUs, if not the top HBCU that produces the most Black pharmacists and also interest into medical school. So that was my trajectory, was PharmD, MD, PhD. I was on that track, and of course things shifted like hers did. But my dad was like, "Hey, Xavier is a private school, costs too much. You're gonna find another school to go to." And so at that time, TSU was open admissions, didn't know what that meant, ignorant to it. Basically, you apply and you get in. But thanks be to God, I had a scholarship where I was an LSAMP scholar. For those that don't know, it's the Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. A lot of HBCUs have this program, which is focused on the sciences. And so feel free to apply to that. If you have any questions about that, DM me and I'll send you some more. But to answer your question about the transition, so I will say that prior to the transition, one of the advice I would give to you all is to get involved with your student organizations, because that's really what helps you in addition to the coursework. Is the networking, but also those soft skills that you probably won't get in the classroom, but you get through your organization. So for me, I was very involved in campus with our university program council. I served in the Student Government Association as a senator. From sophomore year to my high school year into graduate school. And I will say that those are some of the things that really prepped me to move into the corporate world, because you're having, especially in student government, you're having to, listen to people's presentations, their pitches for whatever they want to do with money. You are looking at how you navigate the bureaucracy of it all between all three branches. You're looking at how you can work with the actual administration. You're even working with maybe the government overall, like the state of Texas or whatever, depending on how involved you are. So those very much soft skills that people say that you don't get at HBCUs, you definitely get them. That's the first thing. The second thing that helped me transition into my career is, y'all, you have to know your stuff. So you can't bypass not like doing the work. Like, I know you may like, man, this is hard, but that having that confidence of knowing your stuff. When I say knowing your stuff, knowing your career field, whether that is fashion, whether that's chemistry, whatever the thing is, you got to know it, because that's why they hired you, right? And so not only are they depending on you to do whatever it is that they hired you for, but you want to walk in there confident, knowing you know what you know. Why? Because as a graduate of an HBCU, you're going to be tried, you're going to be tested. Some people are going to think that you're not educated enough for the role, and you don't want to give that impression of that you're not. So just know your stuff. If you don't know the answers to stuff, it's okay to say, hey, I don't know, or you know what, I'm going to look that up. Whatever the thing is that you're going to pivot to, but just know that like you're always learning. Everybody doesn't know everything, but the basic of your industry, you should know that. Don't walk in there. Don't, don't walk in there not knowing what your industry is about. So that's really what helped me, was just kind of like really getting into my books. And the last thing is mentorship. So mentorship on down from my professors, the people that I did research with, and even folks who are in the industry. I always was asking them questions about, different opportunities, asking them about different job roles. What does this mean? What does this do? How can I reposition myself? Asking them about networking opportunities as well. So those are some of the things that helped me kind of transition into my career today. And my career has actually shifted several ways. I tell people I've had like 4 careers, and the span of a decade, but it's still in the same industry. It's just, you just kind of tend to like elevate and you move up. And so your career just kind of shifts based on the skills that you're gaining and attaining over time, which your school helps you prepare for. So.
Before we move on to the next panelist, I would love for you to dive a little bit deeper on the importance of mentorship. And for the listener that we have, what would be your advice to them as far as gaining a mentor or seeking one out? I know we have, like we mentioned before this call, all different age groups at the chat, or maybe even some adult women that are still seeking that mentorship relationship. So what would be your advice to them as far as trying to find one?
Great question. One, never stop seeking for a mentor. At some point you should also get a sponsor, and there's a difference between the two. But for me, what I ended up doing was at my HBCU, I just naturally gravitated to the African-American women who were in STEM because you don't see a lot of them. And so because of that, I naturally would be asking them questions. I came to the office more and I just asked, would you be my mentor? And they're just so welcoming. They just kind of like took me under their arm and was like, yes, okay, do this, do that. Or, they had me in their research lab and I adhered to that. Like I didn't push back. I wasn't like, I ain't getting paid for this, because at some point I did get paid. But saying all that to say, like, I asked, and I not only did I ask, but I looked at what my mentors' accolades were. How did they transition into wherever I was trying to see myself go into, and it made it easier for me to align with them. I actually have a mentor right now, a part of the National Urban Fellows Program. And that's why I say, like, no matter what age you are, it's still good to keep having those mentors, because there are people that are willing to pull you up as they have climbed up, right? But you just have to be willing to ask, be bold enough to like, just say, hey, you know what? I love the work that you're doing. Can I have a conversation with you? It starts with very simple ask of wanting to meet. And from there, you kind of see if there's some synergy there. Do you feel like you can learn and grow from this person's professional development over the years? So I think that's, on the professional side, that's one way to ask. And there are people within your own circle that you can ask to be your mentor that you feel like, they've handled corporate life or personal life well, in that work-life balance, and they can also pour into your life as well. So
thank you for that. OShae, I'll pass it over to you. Going back to the transition from HBCU life to corporate.
Yeah, so I mean, to Jahlyin's point, like, adulthood is not cute, to say lightly. And I think that honestly, I just had a conversation with someone about this. That post-grad transition, it comes with a lot. Like, I think any transitional period in anyone's life, whether it be transitioning grades, graduation, new job, new relationship, new city you're living in, any transitional period is tough. I think that, though, when you're leaving the comfortability of an environment like an HBCU, and then you enter the broader world where, nobody cares as much as you would hope. Unfortunately, not to say it in a crass way, it is tough. And I think that there's a reason the term like post-grad depression is coined, because it is a tough place to be in. And I don't think it's unnormal or different for people to maybe enter a season of depression or enter a season of just mental uncertainty, as there's so many different things in life happening at once, particularly starting a career. But like I mentioned, also, if you're moving to a new city, this is your first time living on your own, there's so many different factors that come into play at one time. And I think that the first thing that can help you, or that HBCUs allow you to find comfort in throughout that transition, is the community that you create. So the beauty of going to Hampton University, the beauty of being a part of a sorority, me moving to New York didn't mean that I had to be alone. There's so many people from Hampton who from the North who live in New York. So I was able to move here and already have community amongst my sisters as well. And so I think that's something that was a luxury of coming, and a direct byproduct of coming from an HBCU. But I think particularly as you start to enter the workforce, and you are the new kid on the block. You have tons of questions. There's so much ambiguity that you're navigating. I think I've learned more than anything in corporate America, the importance of self-advocacy. If you don't raise your hand to ask for the promotion, or if you don't raise your hand to ask questions when you're confused on a project, it's so easy for you to get left behind. But going to an HBCU instills a level of self-advocacy in anybody that I don't know that you really can get anywhere else, whether it's because you got to do what we call Hampton run around and do back and forth with financial aid a couple times for them to get your money together, or whether you have to advocate, like Jahylin was talking about, for housing, or if you have to advocate for yourself in your application or in your campaign to be the next SGA president, whatever it looks like. An HBCU teaches you self-advocacy, and that is 100% so important in your early adulthood, in your career, but even in just your day-to-day living. And I think for me, I got it directly from going to an HBCU. So whether, for me, community and self-advocacy are two things that I've recognized have been important in this transitional period for me, but I also am very clear that my experience at Hampton has afforded me both.
Thank you for that. And Katerra, I'll pass it over to you. With, again, being a more recent graduate, what has your experience been like, and what have you learned so far in this journey that we're on?
Yes, I've actually been enjoying this question the most, mostly because I am a fresh graduate. I am in my gap year, and I have been working in a school. And so I love that OShae mentioned self-advocacy, because even though I have been one of the youngest on staff this past year, I have been able to speak up for myself and like fight for what I believe in when it comes to my kids, or if somebody's calling me a different title or making me work something that's not in my job description, I'm comfortable in not taking that on, because my HBCU has made me confident enough to know what I am worth and what I'm putting forward. So what I give, like my dad always used to tell me, like my 70% is somebody else's 100%. And I feel like my HBCU helped me to grow into that. And so that's what my transition has been, just really walking in my truth and believing in myself and believing that I am capable of doing what everybody else in the room is doing, whether I am the youngest or not. Thank you.
Yes, no, yes, we can virtually clap to that. And I will say, I totally agree. I think specifically in my role being at a large company such as Bloomberg, a lot of times I am the youngest in the room, and 9 times out of 10, the youngest female of color in the room. And you're right, it can come with a lot of, stipulations and trying to be taken seriously and trying to find your voice in this new space outside of your HBCU. And I think, again, echoing what Katerra was saying, thank you all for your perspective on that. I know that we do have some recent grads in the audience as well, so we do appreciate your perspective on that. Speaking about more into transition, and OShae, I'll pass it over to you first. In transitioning, what elements have you kept from your collegiate self to now, and what things have you done away with? So this could be maybe habits you had, or just things that maybe, kind of kept and done away with.
Absolutely. Well, we all, like all of the panelists have talked about all the 11 million hats we've worn on Hampton, on our respective HBCU campuses. We all did a little bit of everything, ran a little bit of everything, and I think that that's a part of the HBCU culture. Like, you get there, you want to do SGA, you want to do student leadership, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say you get a bit jaded in those experiences, in that when it's time to leave. I left Hampton thinking like nobody could tell me anything, which is phenomenal. Like, I did this and I was a Delta and I was president. So like, you just like, of course everybody knows who I am, and they know that I have this work ethic about me just because that's what I showed at my schools. That's why people wanted me to intern for them, all these things. And as much as I did get, like we mentioned, this level of confidence and this levels of grit and tenacity, I think I mistakenly brought the idea that everybody knew what I brought to the table to my corporate life, to where when I now am at a company like L'Oreal, where everybody is type A, everybody was a president, everybody was a straight A student, everybody did great. And it took me some time to assimilate in an environment where everybody was high achievers, right? I think that when I found myself just falling short in natural transition, maybe just not knowing what was going on or just learning my career, I think that I made the mistake of taking things too personally. Like feedback, maybe took it too personally. If something went wrong, I took it so personally. If somebody rescheduled our one-on-one meeting, like I'm like, oh, this is my intro coffee chat. Why would they want to reschedule that? I took it so personally. And then I just shortly had to realize, life moves on beyond you, and life does not revolve around you. And I think that there's so much more to life than maybe just the little pocket that I've experienced so far. So I think that college me versus OShae today doesn't take things as personally. If somebody has to move a meeting, if someone says no, if someone has constructive feedback, if an outcome of a project was different than I anticipated, just realizing instead of taking it personally and feeling as though it's a direct reflection of maybe something I've done wrong, just looking at it as a lesson and being able to transition those skills that I've gained into whatever it is that comes next. So I think that's one thing that's very different about OShae. But the same thing that, or the thing that I carried from college to today is 100% the piece about advocacy. I think that being on campus, I was very clear. I wanted to be a voice for people who maybe didn't feel like their voices were heard. I wanted to give back to the Hampton Roads and broader communities because I wanted to impact little girls who look like me, wanted to be a mentor to them, etc. And I think that, again, the advocacy, whether it's for other communities or whether it's for myself, has maintained or has been an equal thread throughout all of my experiences. And I think that in a lot of ways, I've been able to now see this is a part of a core value of mine. So because it's something that I loved in college and that I continue to do today, I'm very clear advocacy, giving back is a core value. And I'm happy that in a lot of ways that it blossomed at Hampton, but it didn't die there. I've been able to find ways to translate it into my day-to-day life now that I'm post-grad as well. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, again, as me and Katerra were kind of bantering about a little bit, just the transition is a lot. And I think over time, as you all have spoken about and shared, it does get easier, but being, 6, 7, 8, close to a year out, it's still like that brain fog a little bit. So thank you for speaking about that in your lessons. Edidilong, I'll pass it over to you. As far as, again, the question of in transitioning, what elements have you kept from your younger self to now? What things have you done away with? And also, just before you start, I know we are slowly but surely coming up on time. For anyone that does have questions for our panelists, you're more than welcome to drop those in the chat. If you do want to, of course, unmute and speak to them, you're more than welcome to. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was still able to ask their questions. But go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So what I kept, just kind of like what everybody was saying, they were involved in some form of campus activity. Maybe you're involved in more than one, but the idea, I think what I kept was multitasking that and being able to turn that into actually project management. Just because you have the opportunity there to hone in on balancing classes, balancing campus activity, and also being a leader. And so how do you translate that into your own corporate life and showcasing that to employers that you can indeed manage several things and still be the best and still lead and still have quality work produced time and time and time again. So that is one thing I kept. And then also, what I also did was in college, I did a lot of presentations. So when you're in STEM, for sure, you're going to do a lot of research presentations, whether that's oral, whether that's poster. And so I was able to build my confidence in the way that I presented material that I, research. My father would always tell me, kind of calm me down and say, hey, you did the research. Nobody else did the work. You know, you're the expert in it. So present confidently. And if you don't know the answers to the questions, don't let it throw you off. Just say you'll look into it, right? So I've taken that kind of pivot when I'm doing presentations on a corporate level as well. What I have kept, what I've left, and this is as of more recent, is code switching on all levels. I just refuse to do it. Why? Because I want to show up as my full authentic me. Whether I got this Southern Texan swang, or if my Nigerian accent comes out, or whatever, the Southwest A-Leaf Texas comes out, you get all of it. It's all of me. I'm not switching to fit into whatever corporate vibe, whatever. And I've made that transition actually as of recent, but that's something I'll advise y'all. If y'all want to come as your full authentic self, do so. You can assimilate into the culture, but you don't have to change the way you talk or how you're talking or why you're doing all this. They should accept who you are and present that self to that same person in interviews. Because if you begin to start switching, it's gonna cause that like question of, oh, what's that? What does that mean? It's too many questions for me. So I just show up as who I am, as I am, and they get all of that. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, she's very, whatever the word you want to call it. I could give you the word. So that's what I decided to leave, was the code switching. I'm not doing it. I want you to feel comfortable, even if you don't feel comfortable. I feel comfortable in how I'm talking to whoever I'm talking to, whether it's supervisors, CEOs, whatever. So
I love that. Authenticity is key. I feel like, and especially echoing everyone else's stories, coming from an HBCU, you grow in that self-confidence and who you are as a Black woman in society, and just trying to figure out, again, just, what things am I going to bring to work with me today? What things am I not? And just trying to find how we show up in all of these individual spaces. So thank you for that. Jahylin, I'll pass it over to you. And oh, go ahead.
I wanted to add something onto that, because I feel like that's such an important thing to highlight, the importance of not code switching and like truly being who you are. And I think it's really important on the heels of us all collectively saying, well, the beauty of going to HBCU is that you can be your Black, like you can be as Black as you are, you can explore your Blackness, and you can feel liberated in being a Black woman or a Black male or whoever. So I think it is true. It's such an invaluable part of going to an HBCU, how you can just be unapologetically Black. And what you don't want to do is practice that liberation just to confine yourself once you transition into the workplace. And I heard the CEO of Essence, she visited L'Oreal a couple of weeks back for Black History Month. And literally the conversation was rooted in authenticity and how to show up as your authentic self at in the workplace. And she said something that probably stick with me forever, but she said, who you are is who you are. And if you can't be who you are where you are, then change where you are and not who you are. And I think that that's so important, particularly for all of us, especially those who have just transitioned and are now post-grad. As you're exploring and you're trying different avenues in your career and you're trying different positions and you're really trying to find what it is that you're truly interested in, feel liberated and confident enough to understand that if you get to a point where you feel like you can't be who you're meant to be in the space that you're in, that you can find somewhere else because you're just that good. And it's probably because if you're a product of an HBCU or just being a Black woman, you're good enough. Okay. So I just really wanted to hone on that quickly. Sorry, Jahylin, but I just incited that thought. I definitely wanted to share.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think there's so many gems. I'm glad we're recording this so that we can go back later for sure. But Jahylin, again, I'll pass it over to you again with the question of what elements have you kept from your younger self to now? What things have you done away with?
I feel like that's a loaded question, because for me, I'm a very sporadic person. So when I decided to move to New York, I've never been to New York. I'm a little Black girl from Atlanta. So I didn't know in terms of like culture, in terms of just what I was getting myself into. So I literally, just like a lot of these ladies, I just went from being like that girl to girl, like, girl, who are you? So, so it was a culture shock, especially kind of like segueing into like the entertainment industry. I was like super excited, just happy to be in the room. I was very green. I was so eager. I had so much passion. I wanted to just fight for my dream. Whereas like up north, like the people are just very aggressive. Everything is fast paced. There's a sense of urgency. Like Southern women, we take our time, we're just these Southern belles. We're very sweet. We say yes, ma'am. We're just very vibrant people. And not to say that people up north aren't, but it's just a very different culture. So for me, like that was a really huge culture shock, not only just making that transition from college to entering into the workforce, but I think just the added layer of like moving into a new city. I've never been to New York. I ain't know nothing about taking a train. I know nothing about nothing. And so just really trying to like embrace all of those experiences at once, as well as trying to like go after and chase this dream. I was just literally, I said, I'm moving to New York and I'm gonna figure it out. And I just think that just my confidence as someone who was coming out of, I just came out of my reign from being Miss Savannah State. I had just got off a line from Pledge and Delta. I just graduated and passed my practicum class, and I'm leaving behind all of these I was in like 7 activities. So I'm like, okay, like if I can handle this, like New York will be a breeze. So I'm grateful that my experience at Savannah State gave me the confidence to just go out there and chase after my dreams. But when I actually got here, it was rough. It was rough. And but growth is beautiful. And it was a messy process, but I had to unlearn some of like those limiting beliefs that I had about myself. I kind of had to also figure out my identity and where does that lie as a woman, who is now transitioning from college, because that no longer is my identity. I cannot live in the, oh, well, when I was da 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 da. I'm like, girl, nobody care about it no more. Like, who are you now? So I just think that, it's okay to ask for help, admit when I don't have all the answers, and embrace the unknown, right? So I remember like just growing really rooted into my faith when I moved to New York. And I just remember one day, like I was just really having a really bad case of imposter syndrome. And I just remember God saying, like, you have everything you need. And so I felt like when I led with that type of mentality, I was able to just like walk into these spaces and know that like, hey, I may not have the experience, but you're gonna feel me. And so like literally I took on myself as my first client. That was me realizing like I had everything that I needed. When I was going after the role of becoming Remy Ma's assistant, even though I had never been an assistant, I had never knew what it was like to be a social media manager. Like I was just having like all of this self-doubt, and I had to like snap out of it and be like, okay, you know what? You ran the Miss Savannah State page, when you was in school, when you were Miss Savannah State, like, I would literally go back into like some of my assignments and take some of the things that I had to do in order to graduate. And I was able to like put together like this fancy portfolio. I think being proactiveness and being creative also helped me with that. So whereas like I didn't have necessarily like the traditional skill set that they might have been looking for, but I was able to work with what I did have. And so what I did was take the initiative, and I like created, and this was before Canva was as innovative as it was. So like, I remember like going into my interview and being prepared. And I remember putting on one of my Miss Savannah State suits, and I went on Canva and I created this SWOT analysis. Like I really treated her like she was like a senior class project. And I was like, okay, like I did an audit, I put together like a grid of like what type of content what makes sense for her. And, you know, I just came very prepared. Like I was very proactive. This was something that they did not ask me to do. But I wanted them to know like I'm in business. And so I came in there, I printed it. I went to FedEx, I printed out my resume, I printed out my presentation. And I just remember like going in this little dark room. I was nervous, scared as shit. And literally, I think just the effort alone got me in the room. Like they probably looked at that stuff. I was like, are y'all gonna need my degree? Like, do y'all want to see my bachelor's degree? Like they literally looked at all that stuff. They literally skimmed through and they was like, you hired. Like, because if you doing that, like I can only imagine like what else you really can do. So I think that just embracing the fact that, you know, uncertainty is a blessing, failing forward, and just having an open mind and being proactive with that open mind is going to be like that one key takeaway that I would say that helped me with that transition.
Showing up even when nobody is asking you to is the primary key to everything, and going above and beyond. I think that's another lesson that I've been able to take from my HBCU. And again, before we transition to the questions from the audience, Katerra, the transition into post-grad life, what things have you been able to take or maybe do away with from your younger self?
I think about this a lot, actually. Like in high school, I always think about how different I am from when I graduated high school versus when I graduated from college. And I'm just a completely different person. I would not have signed up to talk on a panel post high school graduation, but I just feel so comfortable talking to people and feeling valid in my experiences now that this is something that I can comfortably do. And so I'm grateful for that. I'll say that I've left the shyness that I had held with me. I even, like a lot of you guys were talking about being so involved in school and being so involved in college. I was the type of friend that was like, I'm going to support my friend in being involved. I'm not the kind of person that wants to be in the spotlight. And I'd say I've left that in college because it's now post-graduation. I was like, okay, I've been nice. I've given everybody else time to shine. I've given everybody else time to do their thing. But post-graduation and moving forward, like, it's my time. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And so those are the elements that I've let go of. And ones that I've kept is like, I'm a very soft-spoken person. Like in person, people are always like, wait, what did you say? Like, I can't hear you, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not changing my tone in order for somebody to listen to me and hear what I have to say. Like, if you are worried about what I have to say, if you're concerned and you need to listen, then you're gonna do what you have to do in order to listen to me. So that's something that I've kept with me, and that's something that I will continue to keep with me moving forward. And those are the elements. I feel like I had one more element that because I'm quiet, I'm always listening. And that has become not a power, but something that has helped me. And so when nobody else is listening, I'm listening. So I'm getting all the information I can get in. And when it's time for me to speak, I'm speaking. And like Edidilong said earlier, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. What was it? I'm speaking. I know my stuff because I'm listening to what everybody else in the room is saying when everybody else thinks it's not important. And so those are the elements that I've kept and left with me so far. Thank you.
And Katerra, lean into that because there's power in your softness. So don't ever second guess that. That's beautiful to have. I wish I was a little bit more softer at times. So shout out to you.
No, honestly, I think is so much power in that, and commanding your attention and being that quiet storm. And as you know, as you were speaking to, if everybody's speaking, who's actually listening? So thank you for sharing that. And I hope the ladies in the chat that are a little bit more quiet and reserved can resonate with your story. And again, thank you ladies so much for your time. I am going to open it up right now to the audience if they have any questions. I know we're going a little bit over time, so let's just take about 2 or 3. And again, you guys can drop these in the chat or come off of mute. That's totally fine. We love to hear from you guys. And if not, that is totally fine too. I know there's a few that I had on the side that I can always pull out of my arsenal, but I want to open it up to the audience at this time. And again, if not, that is totally fine. I know ladies are going to end up giving their contact information as well, so you can always reach out to them on the side. One question I do have as a little dedication to my HBC friend, Edidilong, is actually for you regarding your global identity. And you spoke about being a first-generation Nigerian American. Can you speak about how you've been able to stand firmly in your truth when it comes to your culture, not only showing up in HBCU culture, but also as a professional woman?
Oh, that's a good one. So wherever I go, whatever I do, you're first going to be introduced to my culture through my name. So that I can't run from it. That's my name. It's a part of my identity. It's a part of who I am. And so Edidilong actually means blessing in my native dialect, which is Efik, which is a language spoken by the Akwa people in Nigeria. All that to say is, when you're first introduced to me, that's my culture. And so I decided to lean more into it. Even when I came into college, even actually as far back as high school, I was just really repping Nigeria, Africa this, Nigeria that, all the Niger, all that. And that just translated into college. And so I wanted to be very intentional about what I wore. So as you can tell, what I got on some kind of African print. And I'm always going to wear something African print in the office. And you're not going to say nothing else about it, because that's just my heritage, right? Like, that's how bold I am about how I show up in the corporate world, and even how I showed up in HBCUs. I think I have the blessing of being able to navigate various circles, especially at HBCUs, because you got the immigrants here, the international community here, you got the folks who are actually from Houston here, you got the folks who are not from Houston here, you got folks from everywhere. Everybody got different parts of HBCUs. It's very diverse. So despite it being a Black college, it is still very diverse of different types of Black. And then you got other folks who are not Black who come to the campus. And so how do you, shape your identity and all that? And I think that for me, it's just been very much about being vocal about where I'm from, because that's just something that's really deeply rooted in me from my family, and not being afraid to showcase that or share that or to hide it. I'm telling y'all, so I have worked in government for almost a decade plus. And so when you go into those spaces, it feels like jail. Sorry, y'all. It's just like these very like cubicle, it's like monotone, there's no color in there. And so with cultures, there's a lot of color, a lot of vibrancy. And I came in there and I put all this African fabric up. I've decorated the place and made sure people knew they're like, oh, we coming to Africa. Yes, you are in my space. Like, I'm very bold with that. And I think that wherever you're from, whatever you embody, be proud of that, be bold of that. Don't hide that. Don't feel like you have to minimize your culture or yourself or where you're from or where you come from in order to fit into that specific area, because that's a part of you, right? And that's what makes you unique in a sense. So that's how I've been able to really stay in it, still in it, embody it, so much so that it's a part of my bio. I make sure people know that that's where I'm from. It's a part of who I am. So yeah.
Thank you for that. And again, just closing us out, as I do want to stay on schedule. For our closing remarks, closing question, and anybody can pick this up, I wanted to kind of speak a little bit on the attack on DEI right now. DNI, excuse me. Well, I guess it can be DEI and DNI, but DNI, for those of you that don't know, diversity and inclusion. As you all, again, have came from HBCUs and are women of color, what is your advice right now to the young ladies that are in school right now or have recently graduated on how to preserve the history that they've been able to learn or their HBCU legacy as there's so many changes with, you know, affirmative action and just trying to, again, be taken seriously in these corporate spaces? What just is your words for them with all of these economic changes? Again, anybody can pick this up. I was curious about this part again as we close.
I would just say, I think now more than ever, it's showing the importance of going to an HBCU. Like, if we as Black people aren't being accepted, or they're trying to dismantle equal opportunity for Black people or Black women in traditionally white, predominantly white or corporate spaces, then it's time for I think it's just more important now than ever for Black people to continue to build equity within our own communities. And I think that can start with dismantling the idea that going to an HBCU will put you at a deficit once you graduate. And I think it's honestly the polar opposite. So as affirmative action has been dismantled, and as we continue to fight the fight, working for these white companies, just let's call it what it is, let's pour back all the energy, time, equity, dollars, resources, funding into our own communities, starting with HBCUs, then into Black businesses, Black companies, Black organizations. Like, I just think that, I don't think that that's the only answer, but I do think that there's a lot of value in that. And I think that, you know, as Black people, we oftentimes can feel like in order to exist, we need to assimilate into something, another ideal or another company, but we don't. We have our own, we're capable to create our own and continue to develop our own. We've done it before. It's been dismantled multiple times, but it's possible. And so I think now more than ever, feeling empowered to pour into our own infrastructure as a community is really important.
And I will say, piggybacking off of that, I believe all of you ladies have done that today with Black Girls Leadership Academy. As you all can see from my shirt, our motto is "We lift as we rise." So thank you all so much again for your time and contributing. One question that did come from the chat is from Jahylin, our co-founder, which is, what are some of the key practices or routines you incorporate into your daily life to prioritize self-care, especially as a Black woman? It's up to you who wants to take it, but I'll keep it to one person just so we can make sure that we stay on track.
Okay, well, I guess I'll jump in on this one. I will say, just as a Black woman, we carry the weight of so many expectations, and, it can get tough on our shoulders. I think for me recently, I've been putting this into practical use just because entrepreneurship itself is definitely an uphill battle. So if there's anyone who is interested in entrepreneurship, please reach out to me. I can give you a ton of gems and a case full of failures to learn from me. But I will say, in the morning time is something I don't play about. Mondays specifically, just because I can just make up my own schedule. I like to put my phone on airplane mode, and I kind of like to just zen in. Like, I'm one thing about it, like, I'm gonna have my incense, I'm gonna put on some sound bowl healing music. My best friends laugh at me all the time, but I'm so serious. Like, if I'm not going to a sound bowl class on Sunday to set the tone, then I'm definitely gonna kind of go on YouTube and kind of really take that time to meditate. And I do a lot of journaling. I know the app on the iPhones now, they have this new journal app. So I've actually been intentional about using that and doing video diaries. So I think that's been something that's been really helping me, going outside and touching some grass, even if it's for 30 minutes, just go outside, take a walk, especially when it's sunny outside. I love when it's sunny because it just allows me to just soak up and get that vitamin D. And another form of self-care that y'all are going to realize when y'all get to this age is take your vitamins, okay? Take your vitamins. There's this vitamin that I love called My Happy Flow. for some of us like me, like I have PCOS, like I have to like force myself to incorporate self-care into my day because I have a hormonal imbalance. And I will say that, you know, take care of yourself now, because I do feel as though like that transition from college into just womanhood, I didn't take care of myself enough. Like I was really gung cold on, you know, I got to get this dream. I got to get this money. I got to get these clients. I got to get in these rooms. And I was neglecting myself. And unfortunately, like one of the downward spirals of that was, you know, developing PCOS, you know, developing this hormonal imbalance. And I think like, of course, it was kind of like tied to like other things as well, but like the number one stressor for that is stress. So, you know, I think the more you practice self-care, like practice the self-care, whatever it is. There's this self-care book. I'm gonna put the link in the chat while the other ladies talk, but practice self-care before you feel like you need the self-care. And it doesn't have to mean always going to the spa, even though I love a day at Sojo. But I think that like, you know, just something daily as like saying your affirmations, drinking your water, and taking your vitamins, and really kind of just doing what makes you happy and not necessarily like what are other people's priorities and their needs, because they're gonna always be there. But if you don't take care of you, like you'll be no good to anyone else.
That's so good. Thank you for that. And we'll be on the lookout for the link in the chat for sure. Edidilong, I know you already dropped your remarks in the chat, but if you had anything else to add, and Katerra, OShae as well, if you guys had anything to add on the self-care component, you're more than welcome to at this time.
Yeah, I'll just amplify what Jahylin said about taking those vitamins. You don't think about them until you get older. Like I have gotten older. And so it's important because that's what gives you energy throughout the day. So you gotta also remember to eat. There'd be so much work happening, but sometimes you're doing so much work and you forget, like, I ate breakfast, lunch. Dang, I'm only eating dinner. And you don't want to get in the habit of only eating dinner. So be intentional about your health, y'all. I put in there me moments, moving from me moments to me days. That's kind of been my thing, is, you know, making sure that I'm not just finding little moments to like just decompress, but like spending a whole day of decompressing, because everybody wants your time, attention, gifts, energy throughout the week. And so how do you replenish yourself, right? Finding those times if you can, and turn that into days if you can. So yeah.
Yes, and also understand you're not gonna have the same body and the same energy that you had when you was in college. Cause like I used to be able to, I play myself trying to do this still to this day. Like I would literally like do all those activities, stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, get up at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, like nothing happened, and try to go on throughout my day. You can't do that no more. So don't try to think that you establish a routine. Having a routine is a form of self-care.
And I was just gonna add, saying no is a form of self-care too. Like learn how to say no. Like if you don't want to go out, if you don't want to squeeze that phone call in between your nap time before you have to go do community service, whatever it is, like feel liberated to say no. Buy that time back for yourself, and don't feel like you always have to owe somebody else something. I think that is a form of self-care. It takes a lot of time to learn how to feel comfortable sitting in that no, but I think that's absolutely something you want to learn how to practice early. And it does come as a form of self-care later on.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Wow. I feel like my heart is just so full. Like I mentioned, I had a certain expectation for this event and you all have surpassed it. So thank you so much again for your time. I am going to pass it back to the BGLA team to go over our affirmations in closing. But panelists, if you wouldn't mind staying just for a little bit at the end, just so we can get a picture, that'd be great. And thank you all so much for listening in.
Excellent. And thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, OShae. Thank you, Jahylin. Thank you, Edidilong. Thank you, Katerra. Special shout out to Shardell. You all, like I spoke, I sent Jahylin a text and a few of the other team members. I was like, they're giving so many gems. Y'all are giving so many gems. And I know it's not easy. I know it's not hard in y'all respective industries, but for y'all to still show up every single day in your fullest selves, in your authentic selves, and to still keep striving no matter all the different challenges that you all face on a daily basis after graduating from your distinguished HBCUs. It's an honor, it's a privilege to have heard from each of you, and I'm rooting for you. Me and Jahylin are rooting for you. And thank you all also to the audience who is listening in or tuning in. We will be posting this recording on YouTube. So just once again, thank you all to your panelists. Thank you so much, Shardell. I will share my screen. But before we do our affirmations, just wanted to briefly allow you all to stay connected with Black Girls Leadership Academy with BGLA. We do have last minute applications going out before next Sunday, March 31st. For cohort 3, our virtual cohort 3 program. So if you are interested in serving as a mentor or mentee, please feel free to check out our website. We will be interviewing in April and then following up with the remainder of the cohort. If you also were not able to join in our info session on last month, please feel free to go on our website or our Linktree or our YouTube page to check out any information about that. If you would like to also serve in different capacities, such as this, being a guest speaker in some of our programs like this one, or even IG Live conversations, please also feel free to check out our website where you can learn how to be a volunteer guest speaker. And also, because we are a newly established organization, we are also looking for different donors and sponsors to invest in the growth and development of Black girls and Black women, young Black women across our nation. And thank you once again. Please feel free to follow us on our virtual social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As you can see or want to take a screenshot, please feel free to follow us. We do follow back. So please stay in touch with us. And last but certainly not least, BGLA, we have a tradition where we like to end with affirmations, no matter if it's our mentor-mentee circles, our programs. So I will repeat each of the 4 affirmations, and please feel free to repeat it in your mind, repeat it out loud, and just want to also close the space on a good note. So let's kick it off. The first affirmation says, the love I have for myself increases my capacity to love others, excuse me. The second affirmation, the woman I am today is working to becoming a better woman tomorrow. Our third affirmation, I choose to release the fear that's been holding me back. From now on, I walk with confidence into the life that I deserve and desire. And our last affirmation, y'all, to close this afternoon and evening, as a Black woman, by shining my light, I help others to shine theirs. Yes, yes. So please try to continue these affirmations throughout your remainder of today, of this week, as we close out March and enter into April. Once again, thank you so much to our amazing panelists. Thank you so much, Shardell. Thank you, Jahylin. And hope y'all have a great and safe evening, y'all. See y'all at the next BGLA event.
Yes, thank you all so much. I have dropped also everyone's social media handle, Instagram handle in the chat if you would like to stay in touch with them or with us. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, panelists, as well. I hope you all reach out to them. They dropped some incredible gems, and so they have extended an invitation for you to connect with them, and I encourage you to do so. Opportunity to network, to possibly get a mentor as well. So thank you all for taking the time. Thank you to the panelists, and happy Black Women History Month. Take care, everyone.